Of these in chat is Diana. Someone give me Diana. That's... Guys, it's been 15 years! Let it go! Like, that's literally, it was like, it's been like post-ironic and it's been retro like 3 different times in the past 15 years. You know the rules. Why? That's a different... Okay, which one of these? I know one of these in chat has to be Diana. Like, it's literally been like a minute and a half. It's literally been like a minute and a half. Leona, who the fuck did this? Who the, like, why on earth? Why on earth? Where do you get off? You just linked the Leona showcase. Like, this is the high tier troll. This is the Megamind troll. He fucking just links Leona showcase. Guys, what? Like, I'm trusting you guys. I could just go onto the YouTube myself. I am trusting you guys to give me the Diana link, okay? Just, where's the Diana link? Where is it, guys? Alright, I'll just go to the Twitter. You forced my hand, guys.
Each act of heresy is an act of passion. Find your own light within the darkness.
Yours is a light I cherish, Queen Sister.
So Quick Attack Challenger is pretty nuts together. It's like a really sick combo that usually we've had to go out of our way to get. Dies the Mystic Shot Poggers. When night falls 4 times, okay, here we go. She levels up, alright. And the stats are gonna be big on her. Even if her effect, ooh. That was kinda sweet. Even if her effect kinda sucks, when you put stats on a Quick Attack Challenger, that's just crazy. Diana becomes a assassin. Oh, squirrel downed. With Diana in your deck, striking late is lethal.
Come into the daylight, Diana. Daylight blinds, but night renews.
Daylight blinds. Interesting. Very interesting. Diana counters Leona hard. This is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. Ooh, that's an interesting frame to pause on. You know what? I'm gonna say it right now. This card looks pretty good. I like what I'm seeing here. All right, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and take a look at the actual cards. Jesus. Here we go. Diana, 2 mana, 2/2, Nightfall, give me Challenger this round. So she's kind of like Lucian, worse stats, but if you play her, you know, with the Challenger, she's gonna get Challenger. If you play her like with the Nightfall, she's gonna have like a free kill on the round, which is really nice. And her level up is you've activated Nightfall 4 times. And whenever you activate any Nightfall, she just gets the 2 on Challenger. Alright, that's pretty good. It's going to be hard to evaluate that without building, like, fitting it into an entire deck. She's got the spell Pale Cascade. Give an ally +2/+1 this round. Shuffle a Diana into your deck, and it's Nightfall, draw 1. Wow. Give an ally +2/+1 this round. At burst speed for a combat trick is sweet. And then Nightfall, draw 1 is crazy. That's crazy on top of it. This is a burst speed combat trick. This is main deckable. Don't be fooled by the fact that this doesn't have a gem. This is main deckable. It's a champ spell, so it's gonna, oops. It is main deckable. It's a champ spell, so it's gonna be main deckable as like its own version. This is a very good card. This is a card that is absolutely just gonna be like hitting play and making sense in decks even without Diana. That's a great card. Cygnus, is that pronounced Cygnus? I have no idea. Cygnus the Moonstalker. It's 6 mana, so it's pretty expensive. Alright, so yeah, for those of you guys who missed out on the Nightfall earlier, I should have explained this. Nightfall means if it's not the first card you've played in the round. So all you have to do is, in that round, you have to play some other card first, and you're good. Okay, Cygnus the Moonstalker can be like a crazy, scary double elusive. It only gives elusive this round, and it only has 2 health. And it costs 6 mana, which is a little awkward, but there's a lot of things you can give elusive to that will make this card like quite potentially broken. And now we've seen that like Nightfall has a lot of like elusive tie-in. Overall, Cygnus the Moonstalker actually seems kind of awkward. I looked at it at first just a second ago, and at 6 mana Nightfall, it might just be a little too hard, honestly. There'll have to be like a lot of different tries to like get combos out of this. It's sort of like when you compare it to like Ghost or, you know, Sumpworks Map, the idea of it to cost like 6 mana just for an extra like, you know, potential like 4 body that's also disruptible because it has 2 mana feels kind of awkward. So I don't know if that can work quite well enough in elusives. Then we've got Hush. It bursts 3 mana, silence a unit this round, and creates a fleeting Hush in hand. So this kind of reminds us of like Noxian Guillotine, where it's like it sort of has that echo effect. In Hearthstone we call it echo. So basically you get a silence, and for the round you get the fleeting. So it's like 3 mana silence 1 unit, but you can also use it as like 6 mana silence 2 units, or you can use it as like 9 mana silence 3 kind of thing. It also works on champions. So when you compare it to Purify, how does this compare to Purify? This is actually like quite interesting. I also, by the way, I do suspect that silencing doesn't work on champions, but we would need to get developer confirmation. That would be interesting. This is better. So hang on, how is the silence keyword getting reworked? Is the silence keyword getting reworked? I think it is in some way. It's better than Purify if it works on champions. Purify says on a follower. Yeah, of course, but I mean they're rewording it. Nick, you're making the mistake of reading cards again. It's riot wording. We can never trust what we actually read, right? So Purify is simply the silence keyword on silence a follower. Okay. So yeah, it seems like a decent guess that this won't be able to silence champions, but we'll see. We'll see, right? Purify is permanent though. I think the single fact that Purify is permanent is a really big deal for it. Overall, I don't see like a ton of potential with Hush. It is a potential card, and I do have to give it that. At the end of the day, like it is a unique card, and there will be some metas and some Targon decks where you will want to run this effect. But it does seem overall to be like a little bit worse than Purify, right? A little bit. Developer confirmed it works on champions. Okay, if developer confirmed it works on champions, then we're good. It only lasts a round, so it would make sense if it worked on champions. Yeah, that's true. And they confirmed it with Sunburst. Alright. Okay, perfect. So, Hush apparently, according to Twitch, was confirmed to work on champions. And what that means is basically you're paying, compared to Purify, you're paying 1 extra mana. What are you getting for that 1 extra mana? Well, you're getting the ability for it to work on champions, and you're getting potentially multiple silences, although it's going to cost a lot more mana. And what are you giving up? Well, you're only getting the silence for this round, which... Can I ever imagine that being a good thing? It would take a very niche scenario for it to be a good thing that it ends at the end of the round, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. So yeah, overall, Hush is like a low potential card. It's like Purify is a decent card, and in certain metas, Purify does make sense. And kind of in all those metas, like Hush will make sense too. Kill something like Anivia or Ezreal. Yeah, that can be nice. I mean, like I said, it's a good counter to those kinds of things, right? It's like, it's a nice catch-all against that kind of effect. Usually those things have like pretty good alternative answers that you have as well, right? Like, I mean, that's part of the reason people run stuff like Culling Strike, just because it has the ability to kill Ezreal. This one is unreactable, which is really, really, really nice. I don't think I can give this more than like a potential card though. I know it seems like it's nice to imagine it being like used on Ezreal, and that's a really, really nice application. The only problem is Hush will often be like kind of like bricked in hand for a long time to get there. So it's a potential card for sure. Okay, and Poro Cannon, the final one we haven't really seen yet. 0 mana PNZ card. To play me, discard 1, create 2 Daring Poros in hand. Now, Daring Poro is the elusive 1 mana 1/1 Poro, right? Wow, that's a good card. I mean, I don't know if it'll be good in like main kind of like tier 1 decks, but the identity of being able to run this in an elusive deck, a Von Yip deck, a Poro deck, there's a lot of decks that would play this kind of effect. And the simple fact that it triggers some discard synergy, it gives you potential discard targets depending on like the kind of situation you're in. It's a 0 mana spell trigger. There's a lot of things that this card does very uniquely. Now, that doesn't mean to say that it's going to be hitting like tier 1 decks, but it does a lot of things that we kind of just haven't really seen being done before, right? It's huge for discard decks. I think that Daring Poro is a really solid card, even like outside of the idea of elusive decks. Like, discard decks could absolutely just be using this card and just having like 1/1 elusive finishers, right? The question is, would you fit this into something like maybe an elusive deck that's just trying to run like more Daring Poros? And the answer is, yeah, you actually could. I mean, this is a pretty sweet card. This makes Lulu PNZ make more sense. That is true. It makes Lulu PNZ make a bit more sense. Not not over Demacia, but yeah. Mind Meld, yeah, it's a great setup for Mind Meld as well if we wanted to do that, because it's a spell that gives you 2 1/1 elusives, so it's kind of like the perfect like middle ground in Mind Meld. It's not going to make Mind Meld competitive because Mind Meld is kind of already its own flawed card, but this card's sweet. I mean, it's great in a lot of different archetypes of decks, and it doesn't lose you card advantage, right? Like, you're basically using, it doesn't lose card or mana, right? You're paying a 0 mana card and discarding another card to get 2 Daring Poros in hand, right? And it doesn't cost you an action either because it's burst. So it's like, that's the thing about this card that's so unique. It doesn't really cost you anything. All you're doing is just transferring your cards into Daring Poros without costing an action, without costing mana, without costing a card. Like, you still have the same amount of cards, the same amount of mana, the same amount of actions. And that's really powerful. Just that kind of concept where it doesn't cost you anything is really powerful. It's limited by the fact that its only payoff is Daring Poros, but I think there's going to be enough ways of using that. I really love the design of this card. It's really cool. It's really cool. And of course, it can be used to set up stuff like Nightfall. I don't know if that'll matter because I don't think Nightfall will want to run PNZ, but I mean, again, there's just a lot of applications this has. So I think that's pretty great. Okay, so just back to kind of like the full evaluation. Let's go ahead and sort of like go through with these cards. We've got Hush, which is kind of like the silence. I think this is a big potential card, honestly. I'm pretty happy to call Hush a Quinn, which is like a meta-dependent, like super variable card. Reasonably speaking, Hush is not going to be a great card. It's something that will make sense sometimes. Like, I can guarantee you on some occasions this will make sense. But it's gonna spend most metas being a bad card. And every once in a while it'll be great. Cygnus the Moonstalker, I think my initial impression of this has to be a Heimerdinger emote. I think overall, Cygnus the Moonstalker is pretty solid. Not amazing, but pretty solid. I think that there's a lot of like, at the end of the day, every elusive is going to have like a time to shine. The only question is like, could this really be worth the cost? The thing that concerns me the most with this is not only is this like 6 mana, but it's also Nightfall, and it also has 2 health. These are 3 really big downsides. Now, I love elusive, and I think elusive is always like a really strong concept, but there's 3 really big problems here. Like, it comes down with 2 health, which means it's often going to be like killable in those later stages. And the fact that it's 6 mana and requires the Nightfall means it's going to be like doubly hard for the Nightfall to get off. People are saying I'm underrating this. How good is this compared to Fey Guide? It's a hard comparison to make. I think it's a really hard comparison to make, actually. I mean, they're completely different colors as well. I would say they're fairly close to on the same level. It's only this round. It's only this round. The biggest problem with this card is like... Okay, so we're imagining using this as like a finisher. It demands Nightfall. It demands not protection, but you're open to punishment when the 2 health stat line gets punished. And it commits the entirety of the mana. The best champion to combo with Diana? Well, I think I would say Nocturne. I mean, that's kind of like the obvious answer because they're kind of intended to be built together, right? I don't know if we can really say for sure. I'm gonna give Cygnus the Moonstalker a Heimerdinger for now. And by the way, I will build a Nocturne Diana deck like just in like an hour when I'm done kind of talking about the cards. I'll build the actual deck itself and we'll see. Maybe I'll cut Nocturne from the deck. It's very possible. Anyway, Cygnus the Moonstalker is going to be a Heimerdinger from now, but like always, I'm going to be updating my rankings on the pinned comment on YouTube, and I'm going to be updating them when I tweet out later today too. So I'm going to be spending a couple hours. Kuvira is telling me I'm absolutely crazy, and we're going to have him on in a minute, and he'll be able to tell me why I'm crazy about Cygnus, and why he thinks Cygnus is, you know, maybe there's some kind of like big combos I'm not seeing, but it seems a little unreliable as much as I have, you know, a just mega erection for elusives. I'll give it a Heimerdinger. Pale Cascade is absolutely insane. It's like an almost premium value combat trick. +2/+1 is solid. The fact that it can draw 1 as long as it's not the first thing you've played that turn is really, really good. Like, this card is kind of crazy, right? And again, Pale Cascade's main deckable. So when you compare this to, like, for example, Radiant Strike, which is like the Demacia, like 1 mana +1/+1 burst speed combat trick, this is much crazier. Obviously, the +1 mana for the +1 draw is always going to be worth it. It's not even close. Like, +1 mana is just so worth it for the 1 draw. Now, the question is, like, how valuable is the Nightfall? Or sorry, how valuable is the draw given that it's attached to the Nightfall? Because it's not always going to be able to go off. It's also sick on Taric. Yeah, it's also sick on Taric because it's also in Targon and you can, like, give the draw too. Like, this is a pretty great card. Like, I think this is a little nuts. It's at least a swoon, but very, very possibly a Lux. You guys are saying, like, this is an easy Lux. Honestly, this card's crazy. If it gave, like, 1 attack and 2 health, I'd call it a Lux. It would be the easiest Lux of my entire life. At 2 attack and 1 health, I think it's a very good card. I'll happily call it a Lux, but I could see myself bumping down to a swoon. Great card, probably the best card in this, currently what we're looking at. And then we get to Diana herself, which is hard to evaluate, and so this one's going to be very subject to change. I will be updating this when I actually build the deck out, but she seems pretty solid. Overall, she's kind of like, think of her sort of like a kill, she's like a kill unit, right? When she comes down, she's sort of like a Mystic Shot, right? When she comes down with Quick Attack and Challenger, and she just kills something that has 2 health, right? That's sort of like a Mystic Shot, right? That's kind of like her identity. Now, of course, it requires an attack token, and it requires an action, and it requires her to not die, so it's less good than a Mystic Shot, but you get to keep the unit, and she levels in deck, so obviously it's, you know, not a direct comparison, just in that one way. And then all you have to do is Nightfall 4 times, which won't be too hard to do in this kind of deck, and then she will be able to come down as like an absolute powerhouse, right? Like every time you're Nightfalling, you're basically just picking off more units for free. She's just like a full-on just absolute assassin. This seems really good. This actually seems like quite crazy. Basically, in a Nightfall deck, she's like the absolute center of the deck. You will run this card 100% in Nightfall decks. The question is, like, can we entertain the idea of running her outside of Nightfall? I don't know about that one. Probably just... Okay, I do know about that one. There's just not enough Nightfall cards you would run outside of a Nightfall synergy deck, so she really just can't make sense in a deck like that. Just because there's only a couple. Unlike... So, like, Leona, for example, is much more of, like, a package. When you're running Daybreak, it's more of a package than an archetype, right? Because the way you want to build Daybreak, at least from looking at the cards in my opinion, you want to build Daybreak as like a kind of like low commitment package, right? You probably don't want to run Morning Light, you probably don't want to run Zenith Blade, and you probably don't want to run Sunbirth. You just run the package, and sometimes your Leona levels up, and it doesn't matter that much, right? because the individual Daybreak cards are very good, right? Nightfall is different, and we should be very, very aware of that difference. Whereas Nightfall isn't so much a package, but it's an archetype, right? There's not really a way to kind of like, you can't really go half in. You're kind of all in with Nightfall. It's like, your deck is a Nightfall deck, or it is not, right? Which doesn't, you don't necessarily have to run Nocturne. You can run either Nocturne and Diana, but the independent Nightfall cards aren't as good on their own. There's only like 1 or 2 of them, and they're like spells and just less like generic build arounds. So what that means is that you're kind of like all in on Nightfall. Overall, you can't really run Diana in like a tight package. I'm gonna go ahead and give her a swoon emote. She's pretty solid. I mean, she's literally auto-included Nightfall, and she's kind of like one of the big reasons to build Nightfall. But overall, I mean, we'll have to see how good the deck ends up being. And I can say I really just don't see her. I don't see any way to run her in any sort of like light Nightfall package. It has to be an all-in deck. But anyway, that's my initial impressions here. We're gonna go to like, you know, not only talking with other people, seeing if there's any combos I missed, but we're also going to be going to trying to build the deck itself. That's going to be very, very interesting, trying to build the Nightfall deck and seeing how that turns out.